Hi, everybody. Hi, lady.
Hello. Hi, Susie.
Thank you
Hi,
so much for joining us today. We'll just start with quick introductions for me and Bonnie, and Kelly may join us at some point. May be tied up with work. So I'm Susie Adamson, and I am one of three partners of Tandem Real Estate Group at Compass. And I have been in business for about 10 years, and Bonnie and I have been partners for 5 years, and Kelly joined us last year. And I'll just quickly say that this is the first of our mom-owned business group lunch and learn, and we're so grateful to Leydi Rofman, who is joining us from the Organized Lady, which is so clever. And the objectives of these lunch and learn sessions is for us to learn and give a spotlight to local businesses, but also to share our journeys as moms and business owners, and how we got here and some lessons learned and things like that. So as others who might be exploring the idea of becoming mompreneurs, or maybe already are and would just love to learn how other people are doing it, we thought it'd be a great idea just to share sort of best practices and even pitfalls and things that we've learned along the way. So I'll let Bonnie introduce herself, and then we'll start asking questions. Bonnie?
Hi, everyone. I'm Bonnie Ramsey, and as Susie mentioned, I am part of Tandem Real Estate Group, and I just love meeting other women and learning about their stories, and especially women who are juggling it all with kids and partners and work-life balance, if there is such a thing. And we're just really excited to have this time to spotlight some of the amazing women in our community. And we hope this time of learning and growing continues to grow and expand so that, we can all learn from one another. So Leydi, I'm really excited to hear what you have to share today.
Yes.
All right. So Leydi, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background and your business?
Thank you, both of you, for having me. This is so great. I am so excited for the opportunity because I love connecting with people. Not only to talk about organizing, but to talk about just anything, honestly. So thank you so much for that. So how did I become the organized lady? I think I was always the organized lady, right? Even since I was a child, it's just something that really came real natural to me. Obviously, I did not know that being a professional organizer was a career when I was in college, or even that was something that people did for a living. I just thought that everyone was organized, like everybody's homes were neat and tidy, or their rooms and things like that. And it wasn't
that's not true.
That. Yeah, it's not true. It wasn't until I got older that I started to put some language to what I knew, like inside of me, or how I grew up, kind of thing. My mom, in my household, it was always like a tidy household. I love to talk about systems now. And when I've been doing some reflecting about my past, my mom had so many systems that I didn't really realize until I got older and appreciate like the way that she structured our life, because she was also a busy working mom that had her own business, and I and my brother and my dad and the whole family and extended family and all that comes with that. So actually, it wasn't until I was in college where I saw this show on TLC called Green Space or something like that. I can't remember the name, but the host was Niecy Nash. If you know her, she's second actress, just a lot of things. And she used to have this tagline that used to be called "A clean space." No, she used to say "Get together." Let's get together. And I used to love that. And when that show was on, I think I was like a freshman or sophomore in college, and I was a student at NYU, and I took a full-time job after my sophomore year at NYU, because it was like free tuition. And I was like, what? I can work and make $16 an hour? This is amazing, right? Back then. And then when I was going through the ranks, I kept getting promoted and doing things that I just got things done. You know what I mean? Like I was just really good about seeing a problem and fixing it, or like figuring it out and getting everyone to like buy in and execute, right? That was what I was very good at. And I did a lot of different jobs at NYU. I worked in Rest Life. I lived in the dorms with freshmen. I worked in housing. I worked in the card center. And my last role was as a department administrator in the Russian and Slavic department, totally random. But it was just that managing a process, right? Which is not that different from organizing. That's where I go to people's homes and I just do a process. So that's kind of how my brain works. So, but I also love to decorate my house and decorate my friends' houses. And I would go to people's houses like, you want to organize the fridge, don't you? I'm like, yeah, can I? They're like, go ahead. But like with my close friends, they knew that I was like this type of person and come to my house.
So I need to invite you over to my house.
Yeah. Invite me over. I will like tell you exactly where to put everything. So it was just something that I did. And I always told this dream to my friends. I always talked about it. Again, I just didn't know that this was a career. When I was in high school, people were like, oh, what do you want to be? And I was just like, I just want to be a boss. You know what I mean? I want to be a career woman. I had an internship at American Express when I was in high school and throughout college. And I just wanted to tell people what to do. You know what I mean? Like that was just what's, like very nice. I'm a very empathetic person, but that was always what I saw myself doing, like leading things. And so the show came around and then the home edit and all these things started popping up. And I have talked about this dream for years. And all my friends were like, why don't you just do it? And I'm like, I have a career, I have a job, like, why? This is for fun. And it wasn't until a friend of mine who said to me, you have been talking about this for years. And I am ready to hire someone and I want you to do it. I'm going to pay you, And she just like pushed me. Like she just literally pushed me off the ledge. And that's how it all started. And it was just, she told someone and that person told someone and it just kind of like snowballed from there. And then I was just like, and I'm still doing my job, I'm still working at NYU throughout all this process. And, I told my bosses about it, they knew and they were like, oh, you would be so good at that. They've known me forever. Like, of course you do that. All of my colleagues, when I used to work in Rest Life, I used to have signs all over the mailroom for the RAs. I said, a clean space is a happy space. Like, don't make any mess here. There's like 30 people that need to be in this room and it needs to be neat. Okay. So all the RAs used to know, like, don't mess with Leydi's order because there's going to be problems. And I did the project. I did her kitchen for her, my friend, and I had so much fun doing it. I had, she was just like, you are amazing, Leydi. Like, you just don't understand. Like, you have a gift. And I didn't really believe it, like I knew it was good, but it's something else when someone tells you like you kind of transformed their life. And I just kept believing the hype, you know what I mean? And then I did another project, and then I got a website. And then, I started showing my work on social media. But it wasn't really until I started showing myself, like my personality and like what I bring to the world of organizing, which is not a very diverse field. It is a lot of like white women, which that's just how it is in a lot of industries. This is not a lot of men in this industry, mostly a woman-dominated industry. And I was just like, oh, why would someone hire me? Like, there's so many people already doing this. And clients have said to me, just like, once I saw you and I heard about you or your story, like, I just called you. So there is something to be said, like, wow, you are very good at the job. You can do it excellently. You can't be afraid to show yourself authentically. And that's where I'm seeing success, to really show people how I am, who I am. And this is what you get when I come into your house. Like, this is it, and almost all clients become friends or friendly. I have an issue with like boundaries. I'm constantly thinking about them, how to help them improve their lives. My husband's like, you gotta stop. Like you've already finished the project. I'm like, yeah, but so I get really into it. And I just like, can you find your passion in your late 30s, 40s? You can, it's never too late. And I am so glad that my friend literally just pushed me, because if it wasn't because of her, I still would have been dreaming about it.
Can I ask you a question? Are you doing this full time now? Or are you still working your other job?
So I have a date to leave, which is June 30th. And it's June 30th because I'm helping them find my replacement. And everybody's like, why did you give them 3 months notice? And I'm like, because they were so great to me and they let me build my business at the time that I'm working. I don't, they was just so flexible and they were really supporting my dreams that, and I do really care about them so much that I was just like, I want to find them like the right replacement. So yeah, I'm still doing both. It is extremely challenging. But it was scary to kind of make that decision that I'm going to go all in on this. And the day after, I cried a lot after I told them, that I was like, this is a part of my identity for 20 years. I was 20 years old when I stopped being a full-time student and became a full-time employee. And I had my 40th birthday last year. So it was hard, but I let myself cry for a day of like, I felt like a loss, a friendly loss, but it was still an end. But every day I wake up, I was like, wow, what took me so long? But you know what? I'm not gonna think about that because I did it when I did it.
Yeah. What pushed you over the edge to actually like really go for it? Because I think a lot of women struggle. They have these great ideas and they know they have the talent and they maybe, have the resources, everything, but there's a fear factor, right? So what pushed you over the edge to make that decision?
Well, I have a lot of support from my husband. Obviously, like none of this would be possible without him. You know what I mean? Because he really like believed in me when I didn't. And obviously like my friends and my family, like really is like, you got this. Even though there were some people in my family, it's like, why would you quit your job? Like you've been doing both, like, and they're fine with you. And even my boss was like, are you sure you have to quit? Like we will work around your business, But I knew that I was selling myself short if I didn't give it my all. Like I've given everything else. Like this is mine, And when I said to myself, if I've been able to be so successful for other people and imagine what I can do if I put all that energy into me, So that really was like the light bulb moment. It's just like, imagine like what could be possible. And a lot of times I've never let myself go there, because it was just always like a fear, like you said. But if anything in the last 2 years have taught me, whenever I go towards the fear, it has always paid off. Even if it's been a bad business decision, or like, maybe I should have done that differently. I have never regretted it. So go towards the fear because that's where the magic is. And like I'm getting like goosebumps just even thinking about it.
I love that. It's so motivational and so inspirational. I'm sure that a lot of people are going to get a lot out of that. And I also just love how you're talking about how important it is to have your support network, have the group of people who are cheering you on, talk about your dreams so that other people can support your dream. I think that's really important. Before I forget, tell us what today is, Leydi.
It is National Get Organized Day. This was not planned, by the way. When we picked a date for this, it was not planned. I just, earlier in the month, 2 weeks ago, I was like, it's National Get Organized Day, the same day that we're doing the Lunch and Learn. So, yeah, it is, there's a day for everything, right? This is
serendipity. I love it.
But
I forgot to send out my cards for National Get Organized Day, but it's not over yet.
Yeah.
So tell us what the range of work is that clients might hire you for.
So when I first started the business, it was really doing like kitchens, playrooms, closets. That was really like, and it still is, like I still do a lot of that. But now the business is growing in a way where I am doing like more the home design consultant, where like I'm not an interior designer, but I can put a room together like with stuff from like Marshalls and Home Goods and like Wayfair and Amazon, And I have found that is an area of opportunity because a lot of people that do that move to the suburbs, like a lot of your clients, right, might not be ready for that interior designer level. They don't have the budget, they don't have the time, or they just don't want that. They want more like a lived-in space, affordable, family-friendly. So I'm getting a lot of clients where I'm doing the organizing, but at the same time, we're like picking paint colors and like rethinking furniture, new furniture, all within their budget, like I'm family friendly. And I'm also starting to do some like consult where, for example, I have a client, a possible client where she is redoing her basement. It's like a blank slate and she just needs help picking tile, you know, and that goes back to what I was saying before. I just love getting things done, you know, like let's not dilly-dally on this. Like these are the choices, let's make one, you know. And sometimes a lot of clients just need that like push. And you know, people's like, oh, you're just like so empathetic or whatever. And so it's like when you kind of make it about the client and not yourself, they respond to that, you know what I mean? So I'm pursuing that area as well of my business. I've had clients in the past that have also called me to deal with like sensitive papers, you know, like death in the family and like paper being overrun, where it's very emotional work. A lot of clients that are like feeling a lot of shame about their house, having let people inside their home for years. Not like a hoarders. Everybody has seen that show, like hoarder stuff, but it's not there, but kind of like a shame that comes with like, this is how my house looks like, you know? And, you know, going into their homes where they feel super vulnerable. So I'm also doing a lot of that where it's just like, oh, let's just make it pretty. But I'm like, let's do the work to like, why is it like this? How can we make it better? And how can we keep it that way? So yeah, very exciting. You know, I'm like, you know, kind of seeing where things go, but that's the range of projects that I've been doing.
It's interesting that you mentioned like kind of getting to the root of why is it like this?
Right.
How can we change it and then keep it that way? I think that is a struggle for a lot of people, especially being disorganized, is finding a system, but a system, not any system, a system that actually works for somebody that they can do or their kids can do, or, you know, the whole house can come together and agree to put the shoes there every time. You know, that's an issue for a lot of people.
Right.
So do you have any tips, you know, for everybody that's listening and that will listen to this? Like, you know, what are things people can do when they're just thinking about getting organized, or how do they start? Or there small projects or tasks you give people to kind of get them in the mode of getting themselves organized?
Well, I mean, I have a huge tool belt with lots of different tools because no client is the same. A lot of people need a lot of different interventions in a lot of ways, and I use all of them because something that I also did back when I was, you know, I was a volunteer mediator as well. So helping people through conflict and to kind of work through problems, and a lot of that work is internal, right? So a lot of people think about conflict with someone else, you know, it can be internal, like how do we like push through and get to a desired outcome. But the number one tip that no matter where you are in your journey, no matter how messy your house is or not, is you have to declutter first. Like people go out and do it in the reverse. They go out and buy all the bins. They're in the stores and then they bring all this stuff into their house to put more stuff in it, you know, and that is what they think getting organized is. It is not. You're just like spinning your wheels, and that's where people get stuck, right? So the first thing is you have to declutter first, you know, have to get like every session that I do in person, that's how we start. You have to declutter and we have to sort and make categories. So that's number one. And then you bring the bins, right? So if you're getting organized on your own, that's the first step. And measure. You have to measure your cabinets. You have to measure the depth, the width, you know, before you buy things. A lot of times when I go to people's homes, this has happened a lot, where they have all the bins. You know, they're just not the right ones because it's like, oh, I saw this on Instagram, or I was in the store and these were on sale or whatever. And people will, again, spin the wheels there because they think that that's where getting organized is. That's the first part. And another part is like really focusing on the future. You know, a lot of people get stuck in the past, or this is how I did it, or I used that when I wore that dress 5 years ago. I spend a lot of money on it, doesn't fit. You're never going to wear it again. And the money is gone the moment you hit your credit card, right? So like getting people to really visualize what their life could look like if they're organized, you know? So that's kind of like the most important tip. It's like, think about the future. Organizing is future focused. And you're not going to need that. Like, if you haven't seen that thing in 5 years, I'm pretty sure in the next 5 years, you know? So it's like getting out of that like scarcity mindset. And that's a message later on my social media that I'm going to be sharing with my followers about like the number one underrated tip for organizing is not about bins, not about color coding and file folding, none of that. It is getting out of this scarcity mindset that makes you think that you will need that or that you can't get it when you need it, you know? And I feel like that mindset shift and like a lot of things in life is the number one thing people can do to move forward in their disorganization or organization journey. It's very simple, but very hard to do. It's not as easy as people think. Yeah.
Yeah, we had another webinar not too long ago, and we're talking to some other local organizers, and they mentioned a lot of the same thing. You don't realize how much psychology there is to the clutter that we have in our house.
Right.
I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But I love that you were a mediator in your past life as well, so I'm sure that comes in handy.
Yeah. Especially like between partners, you know, like sometimes one partner wants one thing, another partner wants another thing. There's a reason why it's mostly women that call organizers, you know. I have converted a few husbands, you know, they're like, oh, why do we need this? Like, why do we need to hire an organizer? And they're like, oh my God, I see why. Can you come and do my office next? Can you do my office? Absolutely. We will come back as many times as you want to do your house.
So you're a marriage therapist too.
Yeah. Yes, sometimes. And I say to myself, I'm not trying to therapize you, but I have been in therapy, you know, and it's just very like basic things and people, and we as humans just really make things like really complicated sometimes. It's just human nature. Like, you know, we kind of go for the low hanging fruit, you know what I mean? Because it is so hard to deal with our stuff, you know? And people that are severely disorganized, sometimes they make busy work for themselves. So they're like, oh, well, I'm going to change this light fixture. Well, everything is a mess, you know, because that's easy. And that's, you know, we don't have to deal with why it's like that, you know? It's extremely hard work. It's extremely physical. But I think the mental part of being an organizer is, I think, the hardest part of the work, is you are dealing with a lot of vulnerable feelings for people. So this is a career that it's good for people that can see themselves in someone else's shoes. You have to be extremely empathetic to be an organizer. You have to have, you know, like, I'm a type A type of person, you know, but you have to be able to let go and meet people where they're at, you know. There's no right way to get organized. There's nothing you're supposed to do, you know. So I am trying to bring to the table something a little different, where everything doesn't have to look perfect. Everything doesn't have to look like it does on Instagram. Everything doesn't have to be this nice little box, right? We're full people with full lives and children. We have to just get a system that, like you were saying before, Bonnie, that works for them, you know, not for what works for me, not for what you're supposed to do, because all the parenting and all the magazines tell you. And I feel like once I tell people that, they kind of go like, you mean I can just put a bin and label it socks and don't even have, do that. You know,
shows like the home edit and stuff can be very overwhelming. Or
I didn't even watch, to be honest.
Marie Kondo.
Yeah, it's so almost extreme that you're like, it's intimidating. You're like, I can't fold my underwear like that every single time. I just don't have enough time for that. But to hear you say that is really refreshing. Like, you do have to find something that works for you and your family.
Right. And I tell all my clients, if you just want it tidier, I am not the person for you. If you want someone just to tidy what's here, because I have been to people's homes where they have hired another professional organizer that charged more than I do, you know, And I was just like, and then a few months later, I'm like, you're kidding, right? And they're like, yeah, no, she was here. And I was like, because I really pride myself in really getting to the bottom of your family. Yeah, it might take more time, you know, than someone else, but I'm so focused on a system that's gonna work, because that's how I get new clients, right? That's even a marketing tactic for myself, because if your system can be maintained months after I'm gone, you're gonna tell your friend. You know, you're gonna talk about me. You're gonna call me back to your house. Like this week, I have 2 projects that are, one project going back to Manhattan, that this will be the 4th space we've done in their house. Going on Saturday to do a 2nd space. I have a lot of repeat customers because it's for them. You know what I mean? Like for you. And it's not about tidying, because you can hire a cleaning person for that. You don't need to hire a professional organizer to tidy a cabinet. It's like, is this the best use of your space? You know, do you really need that? Like, I ask really hard questions. Like, I push them as like, I am here to like, do you need this tape? I'm making, you know, a tape measure that you have 4 of them. Do you need 4? How are you going to use it? Like, what is the plan for this? Like, when will you use this? Like, tell me tell me a time when this particular item you will use. And a lot of people sometimes like, oh, like, I don't know, but it's like, I want you to get your money's worth. Like, you're gonna get your money's worth because this is gonna last for you. You know, in any market, right? Like, you know, we're all entrepreneurs or whatever. What makes you stand out? You know, so it's for anyone hearing this, a mom entrepreneur, is like, when there's a market, when the marketplace is filled with people that do the same thing that you do, don't be afraid to go where you're good at. Don't be afraid to like rustle feathers. Don't like, everything doesn't have to be nice. And, you know, like, you're not for everyone. Who you are as a person is more important than what you do. And people will be attracted to that, because I'm not for everyone, because I cuss a lot and I ask a lot of questions and I talk like this. And, you know, I'm like, listen, what are we going to do about this thing? Like, what are we going to do about it? Like, let's talk about it. You know, some people, I'm not for them, but I am for a lot of people, you know? So like, don't be afraid. There's a million people out there. There's a reason why people connect. There's a reason why people find each other. And it's not any different in business. Like, your people will find you if you kind of like stay true to who you are. And at the beginning of my business, I was just trying to, you know, be like, you know, like another organizer, and like, you know, this. But once I was like, you know, we're gonna get real here. Like, let's do the work, you know. And it's paying off. So I'm not going to change the formula right now.
I think that's great advice for any business owner or women, particularly trying to get into business. You don't need to please everybody.
Right.
Know who your audience is, and really like go deep on that.
Yes.
So that's terrific.
Go where you're afraid.
Yeah. One of my favorite phrases, as Bonnie knows, is when you're in your lane, there is no traffic. So find your lane.
I'm going to use that. I'm going to quote you though.
Yeah. That's not my quote. It's like sitting on my desk. So before we go, I wanted to circle back to something you said in the very beginning. You said that your mom had a lot of systems and you didn't realize it. Can you tell us, just like, I didn't prepare this question, but since you mentioned it, just 2 or 3 systems that you remember that she had that maybe you've adopted as well?
Right. And before, my mom is amazing mother, an amazing grandmother, but she gets on my nerves, but she is the best. The one thing that I would say is that back when I was a child or a teenager, being a parent was, I don't want to say easier than it is now. There wasn't so many eyes on you, right? There wasn't so many expectations of what being a good mother or what being a good wife were, right? Like, we have gone into a place where everybody's constantly being judged, right? Like, I remember my mom's was a hairstylist, and she owned a hair salon, which was around the corner from our apartment. I grew up in Queens, New York. And me being left home by myself, you know, when I was in 6th grade, that was normal. There was nothing wrong with that. Like, I can just go outside and go around the corner and she'll be with it. Or she will call me like, oh, did you have a snack? So I want to preface by saying that because the pressures on mothers in 2023, it is absurd and it is crazy. Like people out here, and a lot of my clients are making decisions on their life based on what others think, right? So that's number one. So like while these systems that my mom had would be like, oh my God, is she crazy? You know, your kids do chores every day after dinner, like every single day, like what, you know? So I want to preface by saying that it's like a different time in the 90s. But I was, as a child, I was expected to do chores. It was just not even a question. It was just like, you live in this house, you do chores. You know, that includes washing. We didn't have a dish. It was washing the dishes, you know, cleaning the kitchen after dinner, you know, making sure your bag was packed, you know, and all these little things. Like my mom never packed my bag. You know, like if I missed the paper, you missed the paper. You know what I mean? You are, once you hit a certain age, you're responsible for yourself. So that was one system. Like it was very, very loving mother, but very hands off as far as like my schooling, and like think that, yeah, she wanted a parent teacher, she made sure I got good grades, she made sure I did my homework, but it wasn't this constant checking of everything that I was doing as a child. Very effective, and I'm trying to do that with my kids. Sometimes I'm failing. But the one system that I remember was around meals. My mom is an amazing cook, like amazing cook, like, and you can always expect my brother's high school friends to show up to eat. So she always cooked in a way where you always have to expect that someone else is going to show up besides the family to eat dinner. So there was always more food than we needed. And her system was where while she was making the meal for that night, she was prepping the meal for the next day. So I'm Dominican, so we eat a lot of rice and beans. It was always a different rice dish, a protein, and a salad. That was always the meal, Monday through Friday. A different type of rice, a different type of meat, and a different, well, it was kind of almost the same salad. But while she was cooking, she was taking the meat out of the freezer for the next day. And no, that's not true. In the morning, she would have already taken like the chicken for tomorrow to defrost. And while she was making the meat for that night, she was seasoning the meat for the next day and putting it in the fridge. Right? And before she would go to work that day, she would have already cooked the beans. So at dinner time, dinner would really be on the table in 30 minutes. So she got from work, she just made the rice, you know, she would heat up the beans and cook the protein and make the salad. And that was it. And obviously a lot of help from the children, right? And she used to do this thing with like cooking and cleaning. You don't cook and put leave all the plates. As you're cooking, you're cleaning up. So by the time dinner's on the table, there's no dishes in the sink. I still do that now. It's very effective. She also had like different days that we did cleaning. You know what I mean? Certain days are laundry days, certain days you clean the floor, certain days you clean the bathrooms. So there was like a schedule. Again, nothing written down, nothing for anyone to see. This is just how we did it. And she ran the show. And you know, you either liked it or you didn't. Like, or she didn't make extra different meals for anybody. Like today we're having this, and if you don't like it, that's what it is.
I think you should write a book. Lessons from my Dominican mother.
I will, you know, and it was
those
just
are all really great tips.
yeah, and it was she was working, you know, she had her own business, you know, she had kids and she had her own social life, you know, she had come from a big family, like a big Dominican family where everybody knows each other's business. So there was on the phone constantly before texting. So I'm very grateful to my mother, even though she drives me insane, because now when she comes here, she's like, oh, we're not going to cook today. I'm like, well, you're here. How are you doing? You know, she just wants to be told, like, Mom. I had to sit her down the other day when she was here. I was like, Mommy, I love you so much. You're the best cook. I love your food. The kids love your cook. My husband loves your food. Just make whatever you want. I don't care. You know, because if you don't cook, we're just going to eat chicken nuggets, because I'm not as prepared as you. So, and she's like, okay. So now she knows when she's here, she doesn't need to ask me what's for dinner. Like, do what you did when I was a child. And don't go making my kids chicken nuggets when they don't want to eat. Because she's grandma now, right? So she'll make them chicken nuggets if they don't want to eat. I was like, where was that when I was a kid? it was like, well, this is what it is. And you either eat it or you make yourself a sandwich.
Different rules for grandmothers.
Different rules with grandmothers, yeah. But yeah, a lot of my brother was taught to clean too. And my brother had to do chores as well, you know. So like some fairness there. My father didn't do many chores, you know, but he did have his jobs around the house. But yeah, she was amazing. She is amazing, you know. And you know, systems. I just didn't have a language for it then.
I love it. Bonnie, did you have any other questions before we sign off?
Yeah, my last question is how does somebody go about hiring you, and what does that look like? Do you do small jobs and big jobs? Do you charge by the hour or by the job? You know, for people who are interested in using your services.
Yeah, so I have a website, The Organized Lady, Leydi. And if anyone wants to work with me, they just fill out the contact form on my website. They'll be able to like book a time for like an initial phone consult. So I do things a little differently where I don't want to jump in right into your space. So I'm not interested, like if you want to send me pictures to tell me about it, sure, but I'm really more interested in you as a person. You and your family, like what makes you tick? Are you guys homebodies? You guys always out of the house? What do you do for work? What's your favorite color? Like there's like no prescription for that first 15, 20 minute phone call just for me to get to know you as a person. So when I see your space in the second part, which is like the consult, which is like about 45 minutes, whether in person or virtual, I already know who you are. So like my brain is aware, okay, this is the type of plan that's going to work for this family. The consults are completely free, complimentary. And then once we do the consult, I will give my clients a proposal. I do charge by the hour. So right now my rate is $100 an hour for just me, $175 an hour for two organizers. So 75 for more than person. So 100 for one person, 175 for two, and so on. I just take a deposit to, you know, book a date and make sure that, you know, we're moving forward. The deposit gets applied to the end. I bring all the products, I bring everything, we do all the measurements, and then we work the magic. It depends on how it is. I'm pretty good about estimated time. So I'm like, okay, based on this space, I think it'll take me this much. Now some clients do want that home design consult thing. So if someone is interested in doing that, like furniture, paint, drapes, like reimagining the furniture, making the furniture they have work with new pieces, that is $500 per room. And that you get like a mood board, 3 revisions, I style it for you, you know, you do the whole shebang. If there's any contractor work, obviously you work with your contractor. If any furniture needs to be assembled, you would assemble it. Otherwise you pay the hourly rate. And then we just like work the magic. It's kind of like a little HGTV moment where it's just like, and it gets super messy and they're like, oh my God, why am I doing this? And then we turn a corner. And yeah, like everything, I'll post everything on Instagram, everything's on the website. So if you want to see pictures of the work, every project is different. You know, sometimes people really get caught up on the time, but I always say being organized is an investment in your future. You know, there's a reason why you haven't been able to do this by yourself, and together we can find like what's gonna tick for this family. Because I always say to my clients, I am concerned about maintaining this. So a lot of people say, oh, I want this really nicely folded clothes. And I say to them, okay, how often do you do laundry? You know, how do you fold it now? Are you going to be able to commit to the system? Because I'll give you any system you want, but if you're not going to maintain it, I'm going to talk you out of that, you know? But obviously the client would do whatever they want, but those clients that really like go dig deep are the ones that can maintain what they do. And you know, yeah, and they come on Instagram and my website. And I got to thank my husband for the name, The Organized Lady. I thought it was so corny. I was like, oh, come on. Like, that is just so, he's like, babe, you got this name. Like, I was like, no, like systems this and systems. He was like, getting too complicated. And then I was like, okay, fine. And then like I registered it, and then everyone's like, oh my God, this is so cool. I'm like, and every time he's like, you see, I told you. So he definitely gets all the credit for The Organized Lady. You know, my mom.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
All right, so we will post this recording, and we will include all of your contact information so that people can reach out to you and follow you on Instagram and all of that stuff. So thank you again. Happy Day
National
of
Get Organized Day.
National Get Organized Day. It's going to catch on like wildfire. And I'm going to clean up my office as soon as we get off this call. I'm just kidding.
And timers, I forgot, that's another good tip. Set a timer, no expectations. 30 minutes, don't say I'm going to do this whole 30 minutes, whatever you get done, and then you move on with something else.
That is a great tip, and I use that for a lot of things.
If you're doing it yourself, 30 minutes, move on.
Yeah, bite off what you can chew, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's just like exercise, right? Like you don't go running a marathon, on your first time out. You just do a little walk, a little jog, and then you get stronger and stronger and stronger, and then you have, the final product. Thank you, ladies. This was so fun.
Yes.
Wonderful to hear all about you. I want to meet you in person now.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's go have. The weather's nice. Have coffee. I love getting out of my little office. So let's do it. Absolutely.
Sounds good.
So that is a great reminder. We actually do have a Facebook group of women that meet mom-owned business people. If you have a business, if you don't have a business, if you're thinking about starting a business, you're welcome to join us. Our next one, I'm not sure where it's going to be, but we will be featuring Sarah Madera, who is a coach for moms. And she's going to preview what she will be sharing on our Lunch and Learn in June. And next month in May 10th, will be Julie Campbell, who is the owner of Center Stage Connections. And she's going to be giving us all sorts of great tips about how we can speak more effectively. And she's fantastic. So really excited about our future sessions. And then in July, we'll have Joy Yagid, who is a photographer, who will tell us some tips on vacation photos in as we go into that season. So lots of great things lined up, and thank you for kicking us off, lady.
Thank you,
Thank
lady.
you so much. I appreciate it.
Take care.
Bye.